Third-party testing for supplements is when a outside company or a third party is going to test a supplement under a certain type of regulation or certain type of, certification process that is going to help with quality assurance for an athlete.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Carbs podcast. My name is Jenna Fisher and I'm here with my co-host Reilly Beatty.
Before we jump into today's episode, this is just a quick reminder that you can apply to work with Jenna or myself in our Concierge Sports Nutrition Coaching Program. Our one-on-one coaching program provides individualized support for athletes who are looking to increase their performance on the field and optimize their health off of it.
Today we're going to be talking about supplements and third-party testing. But first, Reilly, what's your high and low?
We're going to start with my low. I had this very interesting thing happen to me. I feel like lately I've been sharing a little too much on the podcast, but you know what? I feel like we're all friends here. Poor Jenna has had to hang out with me for the last 6 years, so just a little bit more awkward things for Jenna to have to talk to me about. I had this incident that has never happened to me before, and it was such an inconvenience to my life, and it's just such a first world problem. I got a pimple in my ear, ear, and it was so I couldn't get rid of it. It was there for like a week and a half. And that sounds so silly, but I use headphones when I run and I couldn't put headphones in because of this pimple in my ear.
I have had a pimple in my ear before and they hurt. They hurt so bad. And I remember when I got it and I was like, what is wrong with my ear? Like there's something wrong with my ear. So I had to have somebody else look at my ear and they were like, oh, that's a zit. And I was like, no, something's wrong because it just hurts. And then it just goes away. It's so, what a pain.
I am so glad that you had this because I have been so self-conscious to share about this as my low on the podcast because I thought I was the only person that this happened to because you can't do anything to get rid of it. Are you supposed to put your finger in your ear?
I feel like it's definitely a rarer place to get a pimple for sure. But I don't feel like you and I are the only two in the world who this has ever happened to.
That's my low. It's a very silly one. My high is that for the last 6 months, I have been trying to get Jenna to read this book and she finally read it. And now I'm so excited because now I do not just have a one-person book club. I made poor Jenna read this book as part of her employment to RBSN. And I just wanted to share that I'm very excited that she read this book. And that is my high. So thank you for, partaking in my hobbies.
No, I like book club and I liked the book. So it worked out good for everybody.
And now everybody's going to want to know what the book is, but we're going to keep it to ourselves.
Right now, it is an internal RBSN book club.
It is internal. Yes, it is. And I'm going to continue to bring up this book for the next couple of months. If we get enough requests, we will share our book. But thank you, Jenna, for reading this book and joining the book club.
Thanks for recommending it.
Jenna, what's your high and your low?
My high for the week is that I recently found out that one of my favorite ice cream shops, I believe they are only on the West Coast. None of them have been in Arizona before. I learned that they opened one about 45 minutes from my house and I am going to go this weekend. The only other times that I've had it is when I've been out in California, but I am so excited to go get ice cream from this place that usually I can't get in Arizona. So that's my high is
what
ice cream.
What is the place?
It's Salt and Straw.
Oh my gosh. I love Salt and Straw so much.
You were the one who introduced me when we went out to California during our internship. That was the first time I've ever had Salt and Straw. Every time that I go back to California, I get it again to include when I went out to run my marathon because it's so good. And I was so excited when I learned that they opened one in kind of in the Phoenix area. So I'm going.
Oh my gosh. I'm so jealous.
I'll have some for you. My low for the week actually happened this morning. It's a little just bit of an embarrassing situation. I was giving a presentation. It's kind of like an open presentation, I guess you could say, to some members of the RBSN boot camp. Not everybody can join live, but it's always just recorded. And I had some people join today and they let me know ahead of time that they might have to hop off early. And I was like, that's fine. No problem. We're going to record it and you can watch it later. And as I'm going through the presentation, I'm in presenter mode. So I'm not really seeing the other participants in the call. It's just not what I'm seeing on my screen because I'm in presenter mode on Canva. And at one point I asked if there are any questions and it's recording. Everyone is going to watch this later and no one was left in the call. So there is a recording of me asking an empty room if they had any questions. No one said anything, and that's what clued me in.
Oh, that is really good. Everybody watches those calls, though, and you do such a great job at them. So they're still, super useful, and I'm sure people do have lots of questions. They just will not asking them live.
Yes, because usually we stop and we ask questions along the way because most people do have questions or we want to discuss a certain topic, and we were getting into one of the consensus statements. So I was like, oh, are there any questions now that we've reached the end of this chapter before we move on? And that's when I found out.
Now our Slack channel makes a lot more sense.
Yes, yes. Of everyone apologizing as to them having to hop off early. Everyone will watch it. Maybe other people will get a good laugh out of it like you and I did.
I'm super excited to watch it. I was one of those people that was not able to attend today, so I am very excited to watch it.
One of the things that we did talk about, or I talked about on the study call today, was the consensus statement on supplements, which brings up a lot about third-party testing and supplements in general, especially for athletic use. We're going to be talking a lot today about third-party testing, specifically when it comes to supplementation in athletes. And the reason why this is so important, especially for athletes, is that supplements are not as highly regulated like pharmaceuticals are in the United States. So there's a lot of risk for cross-contamination, for ingredients showing up in supplements that maybe the athlete is not aware of, and they end up taking a supplement that either causes harm or causes a positive drug test or is something that actually is banned by their sport, so they're no longer able to compete. There's a number of reasons why it's really important for athletes to be very aware of the supplements that they're taking, to run kind of a benefit analysis as far as if the risk is worth the reward of what the supplement actually offers. And there's a couple ways that registered dietitians can help athletes navigate that field. But one of the big things in the supplement industry right now is third-party testing. So Reilly, what is third-party testing for supplements?
Third-party testing for supplements is when a outside company or a third party is going to test a supplement under a certain type of regulation or certain type of, certification process that is going to help with quality assurance for an athlete. Kind of following up with what you said, any product in the United States that has a supplement facts label versus a nutrition facts label is going to fall under this loose regulation when it comes to supplements. So just like Jenna had talked about, supplements are really poorly regulated, and any product that is labeled with a supplement facts panel is going to fall under this regulation. It's not going to be tested like medication, it's not going to be tested like food, and it's also not going to be tested like cosmetics. Those are the three kind of categories that fall under FDA regulations and FDA testing. So it is kind of the Wild West with supplements, but not all supplements are, created poorly and are bad quality products. And that's why we really look at these third-party testing organizations to help us kind of navigate the space and to help find those quality products.
When it comes to third-party testing, what does that actually mean? There's a couple different organizations, and we can get into this as far as which ones we trust and which ones we're kind of looking for when we're analyzing supplements that an athlete might be taking. But what does that process involve? Are they testing this monthly? Are they testing it batch by batch? What does that look like from an actual test standpoint?
There's lots of different organizations out there that are testing these products from a third-party testing perspective. The first kind of baseline category that a lot of these companies are testing for is just a quality assurance process. So what does the production line look like? What does the factory, qualities look like? And a lot of those times, those are being compared to the FDA and food product quality assurance testings. So usually the base testing that is done on supplements is just quality assurance, right? Making sure that, again, you have good quality product going into the bottle or the container, and then also just guaranteeing that what is listed on the facts panel is actually what's in the product. That's something that people don't realize, that you can just slap a supplement facts panel onto a product and nobody's checking to make sure what's in the supplement is actually what's on the label. So that's the first type of testing. And you're going to see that most commonly, I feel with USP testing. That's done a lot with vitamins and minerals. You'll usually see USP, and that usually is just looking for that quality assurance piece.
So when we're thinking of supplements, I think my mind immediately goes to protein powder when I'm thinking of a supplement. But supplements include a lot of different things. Like you mentioned, supplements that are micronutrients or vitamins and minerals, those all fall into the category of supplements. So if we're really wanting, or if we really need to take a supplement, whether we're an athlete or not, what are the third-party testing companies that you trust as a sports dietitian?
So talked about that USP. USP is usually what I'm looking for when I'm looking for vitamins and minerals. USP though is not going to be checking for banned substances. So anything that's going to be on the WADA prohibited list, or certain organizations, you also have to look at those banned lists as well. Third-party testing companies like NSF Certified for Sport or Informed Choice or Informed Sport are going to also test for those banned substances. So there's going to be that quality assurance piece tied in to their testing, but they're also going to take it a step above and make sure that those products are going to be free from any type of banned substance. So those are the two most common, I guess you could say three most common certifications from a third-party perspective. You also asked earlier too a little bit more about like third-party certifications, and I think that's a really important point to bring up because a lot of companies will claim that they do their own certifications in-house, and there's no standard for that. So you have to look at these reputable brands like this NSF Certified for Sport. NSF does a ton of different certifications. I mean, especially we've seen this a ton in the field of dietetics, but there's so many different NSF certifications out there. That is a really well-known company. And then also the Informed Sport, Informed Choice, like I just mentioned, that is going to be a reputable brand as well.
So when we see these third-party testing brands listed on a supplement label, is it reasonable to assume, I guess, that this is something that an athlete could be safe to take then?
It is going to provide a level of safety, but there's no guarantee. And that is something that is really important that you have to understand as an athlete is, yes, these products are thoroughly tested, but you always have to assume the risk. With the three most common types of testing that we're looking for in athletes, or the three most common brands, we have the NSF Certified for Sport. That is going to be your highest level of testing, as well as your Informed Sport. Every single batch is going to be tested for the banned substances and from the quality assurance standpoint. Informed Choice is a little bit more of a popular testing option for a lot of supplements because it's cheaper, because they're not going to test batches, they test random products. And I'm simplifying all of their testing requirements. You can definitely go to these websites and check out more.
So how do you know then if a supplement has been third-party tested?
These third-party testing certifications cost money. Because of that, companies are going to make sure that you know that they're going to have that testing done on their products. So they're definitely going to be putting the label on their products. So that's going to be one of the easiest ways to check if your product has been third-party tested by one of these organizations. If you can't find the label on the product, you can also go to these companies' websites and you can type in that product. But something that is really important is you have to make sure that you're also typing in like the batch for products, especially for these NSF Certified for Sport or the Informed Sport products, because you want to ensure that the batch has been cleared from a compliance standpoint.
There's also documentation online too, if you really want to look into it, and like detailed reports about the actual testing process and the results for that certification that that supplement has. And then if in doubt and you have questions about whether or not it's actually been third-party tested, you can always reach out to the manufacturer. Like if you send them exactly what you're curious about, your batch number, the exact thing that you're taking, they'll be able to provide those details for you. And then lastly, I think one of the biggest things is that always check with a sports dietitian, especially if you are someone who's regularly involved in competitive sports, to go over supplements with you, whether that be some type of a supplement review. Reilly and I are never encouraging blanket supplementation of anything, regardless of a micronutrient, vitamin and mineral, or something that is directly targeted at sports performance and enhancement or anything like that. We're looking at the overall fueling plan of an athlete before recommending any type of supplementation, and doing so with your sports dietitian is probably a good idea as well, because any type of supplementation can be dangerous.
And I just have two more quick points to add on top of that too, why it is really important to work with a sports dietitian on this, because yes, these third-party testing companies provide a level of safety when it comes to these products, but you also have to remember that they're testing against the WADA banned list, and your organization, their banned or their prohibited list might be a little bit different. A really common example of this is caffeine, because at the IOC level, at the WADA level, caffeine is not a banned substance, but if you are an NCAA athlete, taking caffeine and certain doses is going to be banned and prohibited. So you do have to be careful, because if you are, following the NSF Certified for Sport labeling, then if a product has, high doses of caffeine in it, it's going to pass that labeling, but it's not going to necessarily align with your organization. And working with a sports dietitian can help navigate that. Additionally, just because a product is safe doesn't mean it's actually effective and present in the effective dose that you need as an athlete. Just because a product doesn't contain banned substances doesn't mean that it's actually going to help with your performance. Example, Jenna talked about protein powder. That's one of the most common products out there. You don't need to necessarily take protein powder if you're meeting your protein needs. So even if your protein powder is safe, it's not not going to necessarily be effective if your fueling foundation is already up to par.
If you do have questions for Reilly and I about supplements or about nutrition, please reach out to us. You can find Reilly on Instagram at easy.sports.nutrition, and you can find me at jenna.fisher.nutrition. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Eat More Carbs podcast. Please make sure you rate, subscribe, and review. And as always, remember to eat more carbs.